Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Tia Jackson, and welcome to the free live webinar on DISC, where we are working better as a team. I'll be your facilitator for the next 30 minutes or so. I'm really excited. I see a lot of folks that have signed in, and let's go ahead and get started. So, have you ever wondered why there are just some people that you click with and others you sort of clank with? Have you ever asked yourself, why in the world does my spouse act a certain way, or my neighbor, or my sister-in-law? Have you ever asked that? I'm sure certainly most of you have. Well, we're going to be talking about this today, and really what this is all about, it is a universal tool that allows us to communicate more effectively with other people. It also helps us to communicate more powerfully, and that way we're creating opportunities for greater understanding so that you can start to answer those questions like, why do they show up the way they do and why do they act the way they do? But probably the most important thing that we're going to look at today is understanding yourself first. If you understand how and why you communicate and how you want to be communicated to, then you can start to better understand other folks' communication style. So that's what we're going to be looking at today. Okay. I first want to start off with just our objectives for today. As a result of this session, you'll be able to identify some common behavioral types. You'll describe the 4 behavioral styles that are identified in the DISC assessment. You'll also be able to figure out what your core style will be and apply some resources to enhance communication and understanding in order to maximize your connection with other people. So those are the things that we're going to be looking at today. I also see that most of you had an opportunity to answer the poll. And that poll question is, what communication superpower would you choose? If you had a superpower, what would it be? And from the majority of the votes here, it looks like reading people's minds. Yeah, that's a big one. I would love to be able to read someone's mind. And it seems like a fast second here is to understand exactly what someone means. Yeah, those are 2 huge components, particularly when you're communicating with one another. It's really understanding what they mean and being able to read their minds. Well, let me just share this. This will not give you a superpower, but it'll come pretty close. When you get to understand yourself, then you'll be able to understand others more effectively. So as we journey through the discovery of this today, hopefully you'll find that you'll be able to understand yourself better and start to answer those questions as to why folks show up the way they do. And we'll continue the polling question, and I'll probably revisit it if I have time to see how others have voted in. Great. Okay. So continuing on. Okay, here. Let's see here. Continuing on, we're going to take a look at what this actually is. Here we go. Alrighty. Here we go. So I want to give you just a bit of a history of DISC. So back in the 1920s, there was a psychologist by the name of William Marston, and he was studying human behavior. He also invented the lie detector. I think that's kind of fun fact about him. And he also was the inventor of the Wonder Woman comic book. But anyway, in his studies, he observed that people operate within 4 major behavioral styles. But each person has a trait from each of the 4. But 1 or 2 of those traits are natural or core. So a couple of things to know about DISC is that we all have 4, but 1 or 2 will surface as a natural style for you. Also, let's take a look at what DISC is and what it is not. So DISC is a universal language of behaviors and emotions. It categorizes how we act or how we behave. What it is not an indication of a person's intelligence, thank goodness. It is not an analysis of a person's values. It's not an evaluation of their skills and experiences, nor is it an assessment of their education or training. What it is how we behave. It's not good, it's not bad, it simply is. Also, it's a combination of our nature, which is inherent, and our nurture, which is our upbringing. And again, it serves as a tool to help us learn more about ourselves so that we can improve our communications with one another. Again, it's not good or bad. It just simply is. So let's take a quick look at the natural and adaptive styles. I know that most of you have not had an opportunity to take the DISC assessment, and some of you have. So I wanted to share just a bit about what the styles mean. So if you look at the natural style, that is your core style. This is the graph that's on the right-hand side of your screen. It indicates that there are 4 different styles here. Am I not sharing all this time? Okay, there are 4 different styles here. So if you take a look at the middle line, that is what we call the energy line. So any style that is above the 50% line, which is called the energy line, is considered a high factor. So in this example, the I is considered high. The second highest would be the S. So your natural style means this is your perfect place. This is where you are comfortable on automatic pilot, if you will. You don't have to think about your behavior in this particular instance. You are naturally just behaving and showing up as your perfect place. So if you take a look at the other graph on the left-hand side, which is your adaptive style, this says how you believe that you should show up in situations. But what we're going to really focus on today is your natural style, your perfect place, your core style, if you will. So this example again shows the I as high, and the S is high as well because it's over the 50% line. But we're looking at the very highest style that falls above the 50% line, which would then indicate that is your core style. Anything that's below the line is considered low. Anything below that 50% line is considered low. Yep. Okay, so let's get into the D, the I, the S, and the C. So D stands for dominance. This is all about tasks, challenges, and problems. Understanding a person that has a high D, again, is above the 50% line, is considered high. So some behavioral characteristics for a D. These folks are goal-oriented. They're results-driven. They're very, very competitive. They're all about the big picture. Most people think that folks with a high D are commanding and intimidating. They're like a bulldozer, if you will. They're the individuals that are always thinking about how am I going to approach a problem or a challenge. They're all about winning. So a D personality will always ask the question, what? What? They're goal-oriented and they're goal-driven. So it's all about how they're going to approach their problems and their challenges. So the D personality gets their value from winning or goal attainment. 19% of the population show up as this core style of D, dominance, tasks, challenges, problems. The next is the I. The I stands for influence. This personality type is all about how to influence and build relationships. Now the I can come across as enthusiastic, optimistic. They're all about creativity. They're facilitators. They're energizers. They're intuitive. And again, they're all about relationships, building the right type of relationship. For those styles that are low in the I category, the I could be viewed as too optimistic for some, maybe a bit unorganized, scatterbrained, lacks details, they think out loud. But when the I is very low, they could be very introverted, critical, less trusting of others, and they prefer fewer relationships. And 32% of the population show up with this core style of I. So the I is always asking who. Who's coming to the meeting? Who's coming to the party? Who? Because they're all about building those relationships with others. They get their value from recognition in relationships. Let's continue on. Let's look at the S. S stands for steadiness. Now, the S is all about pace and change. They're all about that. And their characteristics are patient and composed. They're great at finishing a job. They're calm and stabilizing, and they're predictable. They're the type that's concerned about everybody else. They're not concerned about being in the limelight. They're only concerned about that all things are fair across the board for all people. 35% of the population show up as an S style. I like to say that the S is the glue to a relationship. They're the one that will bring the harmony to confusion, if you will. Now, those that do not have a high S view the high S as being too resistant, slow to make a decision, low risk, too agreeable maybe, and even holding a grudge, which means that the S doesn't like change. So they can appear to hold a grudge from time to time. They'll go along with it, but internally, they're not real happy about the change. When the S is low in a particular person, they show up with a sense of urgency, juggling multiple tasks, and they dislike routines. And again, 35% of the population show up as an S, and the S will always ask the question, how? How are we going to get this done as population? The next style is C, which stands for compliance. This is all about rules and procedures. Now, the C personality is looking at, of course, compliance and rules. And their characteristics are they're very meticulous. They criticize and test. They also follow the rules. They're factual and direct. They have very high standards. And they're also detail-oriented. Now, those with a very low C will view the high C as analysis paralysis. These are the types of folks that will take a long time looking at the data because they do not want to be wrong. They can also seem pessimistic and take too low of a risk, if you will. And they're perfectionists in letters of the law. So 14% of the population show up as a high C. Those that have a very low C, they love to stay in the land of the gray, if you will. But a high C, it has to be black or white. There is no gray. They're rule breakers, and they also base their decisions on consequences. So 14% of the population show up as C. And the C will always ask the question, why? Why? Because they're concerned about rules and procedures, and they get their value from never being wrong. And if I could take a step back just for a moment, the S gets its value from harmony. They want to make sure that everyone is together, and they get their value from being making sure that everyone is in harmony. All right. Now, I do want to talk just a little bit about interpreting the disc wheel. And I want to talk about some similarities to the different styles as well. So if you take a look at the wheel here, along this axle is what we call orientation. This is what each style is going to focus on. So when you ask this style a question, it's where their mind goes in terms of answering the question. So the D will always go to facts or task. How do I get it done? How should it get done in terms of winning, if you will? The C is always going to go to facts, procedures. Is it correct way to do it? They're always going to go to the facts. So the I and the S are all about people and relationships. So if you ask an I a question, for instance, what did you do for dinner? They're going to tell you a story, and they're going to share who was there and how much fun they had. If you ask the S, what did you do for dinner? They're going to tell you, but they're going to actually ask you, what did you do for dinner? So the S is about people. The I is about relationships. Let's go back to the C and the D. So if you were to ask the D, what did you do for dinner last night? They would just say, I ate, because they're about the task. I ate, it's done, there's no more conversation. The C would probably give you more detailed about what time the dinner came, if it was late, if it was the way that they wanted it. So again, it's all about where their mind goes when asked a question. So this next line here is the horizontal line axis, if you will. This is all about pace. So the D and the I have a fast pace because they're thinking quicker and they're answering and they're talking a lot faster. The C and the S have more of a deliberate pacing. The C is more deliberate because they're thinking about the answer. Because again, they get their value from never being wrong. So they're going to take their time to make sure that their answer isn't wrong. So they're going to take a little bit more time in terms of their pacing. The S is a little bit more deliberate because they want to give other people a chance to speak up and answer. Again, they don't have to have the limelight, so they're going to give that individual more time to speak up, and they'll just sit back and support. So their pacing is a bit more deliberate. But the D and the I, particularly the I, they're going to start talking until they arrive at something brilliant. And I'm sure a lot of you are thinking, yep, that's me. Or you can certainly start identifying co-workers, spouses that show up as a C, a D, an I, or a C. So think about that for a second. You know, you don't have to be an expert, if you will, to start identifying some of the behavior characteristics of each style. You may even be saying, hey, I'm a little bit of all four, and you would be absolutely correct in saying that. But again, it's just that one or two that show up dominant in terms of how you show up behaviorally. So again, I just wanted to share just a little bit more about just how to interpret the wheel in terms of the C and the D. They have that in common, tasks and facts. The I and the S have in common people and relationships. But the D and the I are all about fast pace, and the C and the S are about deliberate pace. So let's take a look at the polar opposites here. If I were to look across the wheel here, the I and the C are polar opposite. So the I is all about living in the gray, as we said earlier, optimistic, energetic, big motions, talk a lot, very fast paced. The C, on the other end, is all about facts, black and white. They're more reserved. They prefer fewer relationships. So as you can see, the C and the I, particularly for a high I and a very high C, that I could certainly get on the C's nerve. And the same thing with the D and the S. The S is dominant. They're driving. They're fast paced. And the S is slower, more composed. So the S can certainly get their feelings hurt by the dominance of a D. So if you go back to that first scenario that we talked about in terms of some people you click with and others you clank with, and some folks you ask the question, why do they show up that way? Well, hopefully you can start to see why they're showing up that way. It certainly isn't because they want to be that way. They are hardwired to show up and behave in those particular ways. They have that natural style, again, where on autopilot, this is how they show up. And we have an adaptive style where this is how we believe that we should show up in order to get along with and better understand one another. Now this next slide I threw in here because I think it's just really cool in terms of being able to look at this as an observer and identify the D, the I, the S, and the C in terms of their appearance, workspace, needs to know, how they respond when they're under pressure or under tension. So let's take a quick look very quickly. So for D, their appearance is usually businesslike and formal. Their workspace is busy but structured. They need to know cost and timing and the purpose. Think about that. If you're dealing with a coworker that they're asking that question, how much is it going to cost? How much time will it take? They're usually a D because they're driving for the result. Under pressure, they may dictate or assert. The I usually is fashionable. Their workspace is cluttered but friendly. They may relate to the greatest number of people. And when under pressure, they may attack and be sarcastic because, again, it's all about relationships for them. The S is casual but conforming. They're also personal. You'll see a lot of pictures on their desk because they love to talk about family. Remember, the S likes to talk about other people. They want the spotlight off of them. They need to know, will it affect or how will it affect people personally? And they're very loyal. And they're under pressure, they will just submit. They may not agree, but they'll just submit and say, fine, you win. Have at it. The C, their dress style or appearance is formal and conservative. Their desk space may be functional and organized. You may work with someone that has every file folder typed out. It's organized, it's color-coded. You have anybody like that? That drives you crazy if you're the exact opposite? What they need to know is how it works or how to justify the cost. They're very strong at researching quality and process. They love process. And under tension, they will withdraw or avoid. So that's just a quick little snapshot of the D, the I, the S, and the C in terms of what it might look like to someone looking in. So hopefully you've had an opportunity to think about what your core style might be, particularly for those that have not had an opportunity to take the assessment. So think about what that might be for a second. And I'm just going to ask you guys to go into chat really quickly. And I'd like to hear from as many people that would like, what do you think your core style is so far, just by going through the D, the I, the S, and the C? We'll pause for just a second and see what we get here. Oh, I see some D's in the house. C's. Hi, Shane. We see an I. Erica's an I. Audrey an S. Oh, yeah. I's. I think I am an I, but you haven't taken the test. Okay, so you relate probably, Denise, I'm talking to you, Denise. So you relate probably more closely to an I. That's great. That's great. I think I'm a C. Good. Yeah, so again, taking the assessment will really identify exactly what your core style is and what your adaptive styles might be. And again, it may not be a superpower, but it will certainly give you an opportunity to get an idea of who you are, and then you'll start to be able to better relate to those that are opposite of you, or those that you tend to clank with, if you will. Good. We have a good variety of the D, the I, the S, and the C. Great. I'll give a couple more people to. Okay, so we have a question. Can we still take the assessment? I tried and it said it was too late. I think we have extended that time, and Audrey will certainly chat in and give you that exact answer, Jenny. Good. Okay. All right, so we have one last thing that we're going to do here, and this is an action plan. So again, we just went over, I like to call a 50,000 foot level view of DISC. And just from what we've learned today about your natural style of behavior, I want you to just jot down somewhere words that describe your behavioral style. What did you glean from our talk? And then number two, what are some positive impacts of your behavioral style? And number three, what are some limitations of your behavioral style or possible negative impacts? So take a couple of minutes and jot that down on a spare piece of paper. And any of you that would like to share it on chat, we'd love to hear what that looks like as well. We'll give you a couple of minutes to do that. Good. Thanks, Audrey, for that information on how they can access the assessment. See, I seem to come across bored depending on the area. Ah, yeah, you're a high D. That's absolutely right. Uh, Sometimes when you are wanting to continue to get through the material, you can come across bored. Like next, we've covered that. Let's keep it moving. The D doesn't like a whole lot of conversation. Good. Perfect. You like to drive results, Bailey, to get things done? Love that answer. Okay, good. Alrighty. So hopefully, just this quick overview, most of you should be at least comfortable with identifying your natural or core style. That style that is highest and that is above the 50% line. Those are the behaviors that most people are going to see from you first. Hopefully, you, as I said, you've been able to identify what that style is and start to think about how you can better start communicating with others that have a different style than you do. Okay, so that's your action plan there. And we're going to move on to the very last piece here. I wanted to share with you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed our time together today. I hope you have, and we'll be more than happy to, if you are taking that assessment, to share the report and give you some feedback on that report, if you will. Kind of go through the report with you. We'll be more than happy to do that. But if you've enjoyed our time today, I'm hoping you would all come out on Friday, August the 26th from 8 to 4:30. We have a full day workshop all about customer service advantage. It's a cool new program that was just developed, and it is all about focusing on building vital behaviors that enable your staff to improve customer loyalty while improving morale, teamwork, and commitment throughout the workplace. And it's also heavily grounded in some behavioral style elements as well. So you'll almost get a little part 2 of this, if you will. So come out and join us again on Friday, August the 26th from 8 to 4:30 p.m. and our very own Lisa Reich will be facilitating that particular workshop. Hope to see you there. So I am going to open up the floor for any questions and answers. And feel free to type in your questions and I will answer them. Okay. Olivia, I see you have a question. How can a C relate to a D effectively? Good question. So if you think about the D, the high D, the D is all about results. So as a C, actually have a lot in common because the C is looking at facts. So the C will come in and communicate to the D and give them exactly what it is that they need, bullet point, if you will. And also sharing with them the what. How is it going to get done? That's what the D is going to be most concerned with, and not all of the background and all of the research, which is the C is actually pretty good at. So cut out the research and get straight to the bottom line with a D and tell them how much is it going to cost and when will it be done. That's probably one of the best ways to effectively work with a D. I hope that was helpful. Yes, you can get a copy of the presentation. There will be a link to this presentation at the end of our time, so you'll certainly be able to get that at the end of our time. It says, can I be all 4 styles? Well, yes, we all have 4 styles, but there's going to be 1 or 2 that's going to be dominant. So a lot of people may go, oh, I can relate to all 4, and that's absolutely correct. And depending on the situation, one style will come out over the other. But that dominant core style is where you are naturally. When you're not thinking about it, when you're comfortable, that style will emerge. Good question. Okay. Yes, Kim will have Audrey send you the information on the DISC assessment. Okay. Good questions, everyone. Looks like it's about 1:30. I certainly hate to end our time together, but we had 30 minutes to share, and I hope this was helpful. And again, I hope to see you guys for the Customer Service Advantage class on the 26th, I believe, right? Yes. All right. Everyone have a great day. Thank you all. Have a wonderful day, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you.